Hello, hello. It's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste here on this Aries moon day. Emotions are running high. Hi, Martin. Okay, so Martin, you can press the little there should be, it looks like a little camera with a plus at the bottom. You should be able to press that, or I should be able to request for you to join. Let me see if I can do that. In Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Accept. Sometimes I have to press it twice. It worked right
All right.
away. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi there. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great. Well,
Great.
yeah.
What
I'm
an
doing.
American answer. So, I mean, with you guys, it's never just I'm fine, I'm good. I'm great. Awesome.
We can't help ourselves.
I
The
know,
sad
I know.
rising
Of
of
course.
the US chart. Yes, it's so good. I'm so excited that we get to talk. Martin and I met at NORWAC, the amazing astrology conference that happened in Seattle, and we had such a fantabulous time
We
getting to know
have.
each other. So I'm so excited to talk to you. So why don't you introduce yourself for everyone?
All right. So, my name is Martin. Obviously, I'm based in Berlin. I'm a psychotherapist and I've been doing psychological astrology. Oh my God, what a tongue twister. Psychological astrology for, well, over 30 years now. And I've written that book a couple of years ago, name of, yeah, Pandora's Box, The Mystery of the Eighth House. And yeah, so the eighth house is one of my many, many passions. So I take great interest in, biography work, karmic astrology. I also love mundane and, all sorts of astrology. But sometimes it's really worth it to bite your teeth into something. So I did tons and tons of research. Then I started with, articles on the eighth house. And at one point I realized, I mean, this needs to be a book, a book. So, yeah. And that's really something I enjoyed enormously.
Yes, yeah. And the eighth house is so fascinating because
It is.
it's yeah, it's a confusing, dark, mysterious place, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited. I know a lot of people will be excited about hearing about this. So, people, if you could put any questions in the comments, or if you have any placements in the eighth house, why don't you tell us what they are if you'd like, and I can ask Martin to comment on it. But why don't you talk to us about the eighth house? Yeah, like just give us the lowdown as you see it.
Okay. So the eighth house comes with a certain kind of like ambivalence. So do we really want to go there? Do we really want to learn about it? So, and interestingly enough, there wasn't much out there by way of literature on the eighth house. So I kicked off this topic like 10 years ago when I was still living in London, and I attended a lecture from Lynn Bell, and that lecture was called Vampires in the Eighth House. And I thought, wow, this is really mind-blowing. So it was all about the roots of the eighth house. So I was trying to get like a 360-degree approach of the eighth house. And of course, you have to kick up with Hellenistic astrology, and the sixth, the eighth, the second, and the 12th house don't don't form direct angles to the ascendant, which in the Hellenistic astrology is like the source of life. So the old Greeks thought that those other houses 6, 8, 12, and 2, were rather draining out of the life source rather than supplying energy, if you will. And also, I mean, if you take into account that the 8th house looks at the ascendant from a 150-degree angle, which is a quincunx. I mean, the mere word quincunx sounds terribly uncomfortable. Wouldn't you agree?
It is. It's like that irritating,
Yeah.
buzzing aspect.
I mean, just think of somebody looking at you from a 150-degree angle, which is like crooked, and you get nervous. It's like, do I have like spinach on my teeth, or what's wrong with me? So you really get
and you can't
sort
really
of
see
nervous.
it because it's a blind
Yes,
spot. It
exactly.
literally is a blind spot.
Yeah, and it's not directly confrontational as it would be the case with a 180-degree, like an opposition. It's like a direct threat or a direct offer, a friendship or what have you. So also, if we follow the sun would be, by the way, by the time it is in the 8th house, would be, you know, like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which is in Greece when the sun is at its most intense. So it's almost blinding. And that's why in Greece, in Italy, people take a siesta. So they would close the shutters and they would go inside to the shade. So this is, if you take that image further, is that we land with that old saying, where there is light, there has to be shadow. So, and this is mind-blowing because usually we would think of the 8th house as a house of darkness, of being occult. So the occult means the hidden. But on the other hand, it's not. This can be extremely bright, so almost blinding. And I would attribute that to the fact that we humans sometimes not dare to peek, to glance, because it would blow our minds. We would get blinded by that. And that's all about the truth hidden in the 8th house. It can be really shocking. It can be transformational. It can lead to shedding skin, because the 8th house is the house of crises, of reincarnation, of being in debt, the values of others, of sexuality. And at one point, it doesn't matter which of all these issues you pick out and take under the microscope, they are all entangled, they are all slightly uncomfortable. So this is not a fun house. So take, for instance, like the 5th house, it's all our hobbies, it's about flirting, it's like playing around. And of course, the 5th house and the 8th house would form a natural square. Both fixed houses. So if you take that further, both houses can have something to do with sex, but you would only encounter intimacy in the 8th house. It's like getting people into your life. And while the 7th house is just like, hello, hello, hello. The 8th house is like, come on, I will have you sit down. I will press all your buttons and I want to know the real deal. I want to get to know, right? So
it makes you uncomfortable. Yeah.
It does. It does. So also, which is the case. So every time when the I and the you become an us, this has to do with shedding skin, with something's got to give. So 2 entities will die and 1 new entity will emerge. So
I love
yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah. So we're really talking intensity here, we're talking complexity here, and we are talking like surrendering to our path of life, if you will. So I'm a couple therapist, and I always admire the mere fact that people get together, live together, have children, buy houses, and you know what have you. And sometimes it'll end in misery. I mean, more often than not, it's joyful. So the 8th house can be a mixed bag. So this is where you find like intense pleasure, satisfaction, or like running out empty. And it all depends on how much how open we are to look into that, to face our shadow, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, I talk about it being the house of the shadows, the things
Yeah,
about ourselves
yeah,
we would rather disown. And it can be about like sexual ecstasy or about shame and
shame,
blame and all.
yes,
Yeah.
shame, guilt.
Oh.
And also, if you take that further, so the second house is the house of our possessions. And the eighth house is the house where we might become possessed. So you just twist it, right? And then it's a different ball game. And also, being possessed can be a lot of fun. It can be.
It can be depending on your issues with control, which is
Yes.
very, and do you look at it as ruled by Mars or Pluto, or what would you
Yeah.
say about that?
And and also, since it's the house of taboos, and in our society, in our Western society, there are so many hidden taboos. So we might stumble upon something and then we say, oops, oh my God, I've been trespassing and someone is taking offense, right? So we have to own that. We have to say, excuse me, please. So it'll end up, I don't know, in an entanglement. It'll end up in drama. But at the end of the day, the old Greeks said that at the bottom of Pandora's box, you will find hope. And isn't that beautiful? It's like looking for a daisy in a field of manure. It's worth the trouble, right? And of course, me having been a psychotherapist for many, many years and having undergone several therapies myself, to be sure, is like under the pain and under the suffering is joy, is self-confidence, is by way of embracing who I am, not being ashamed, is such a revelation, and you will feel your whole potential.
And
While on
that
the
feels
other
like the
hand,
second versus the eighth house
yes, absolutely,
as you come to accept your true self, shadows and
that's
all,
true.
light and shadows. Second
Yeah,
house, it builds your self-confidence and
or,
sense of
or
worth and acceptance.
to be sure, or in the second house, it's our talents,
Mm-hmm.
and in the eighth is our hidden talents.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
I haven't thought about the eighth. Speak more about the hidden talents of the eighth.
Yeah. So a hidden talent might be embracing intensity. So I don't know about you, but I think it's a huge difference, for example, if we chit chat, being like polite, nicey nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if we said, okay, I am feeling something, I am seeing something, and I'm addressing that, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sharing that, and being respectful at the same time. And this is when the intimacy happens, because intimacy doesn't necessarily have anything to do with sex. I also
Mm-hmm.
think that our society is like slightly obsessed with sex, because again, sex has to do with who has the upper hand, whose heart will be broken, and so on and so forth. While on the other hand, if we are respectful of the other person, mindful of the boundaries, something new, a new entity, if you will, can emerge. So intense relationships always happen in the eighth house, never in the seventh. The seventh, again, is sort of like being on a shopping spree. Like, I want this, I want that, and then you end up home, and then you said, oh, this food is rotten, or this is like past its shelf life, or I don't know if you've ever experienced like buying stuff and then you end up home and you say, oh, this is not my color, or this doesn't wash well. You said, oh my God, I spent all that money in vain. and you only end up with like a handful of really treasured clothes, which you say, this is me, this brings out my own colors, and this is what I like.
So let me see. So like the Libra of the seventh house can
Yeah,
be somewhat superficial,
yeah,
you know, where we just like have nice chit chat and conversation and whatnot. But the eighth house has that Scorpio essence where we go deep and we like trigger each other. We get into that probing of what's really there beneath the surface of
yeah.
the seventh house. Mm-hmm.
I love the word trigger. That's a very eighth house word.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Intensity, trigger, drama, entanglement, obsession, fixation. But also, I mean, sexuality happens in in our brain. So it's all about control. And since I'm a couple therapist, I'm dealing with sexual issues all the time. And by way of saying, oh, this is something I'm yearning for, versus I don't like if you do this and that, can be a revelation to the partner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a taboo to talk about it, and after that you will feel the benefit of the relief, and then you can enjoy a more healthy sex life again if you are mindful of the boundaries of the other person. While on the other hand, for example, some people can't enjoy actual sex with their partners anymore because they have become addicted to watching porn. And so
Mm.
it's sort of like sourcing out their energies. And of course, if you watch porn, of course, they appear to have pleasure, and it's all staged. So it's all scripted, and then you become fixated, and all of a sudden it's always so. It's all about fetish and who has the upper hand, blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, oh, and this now is my actual partner. And for example, like the heart comes into play. So it's not only like our sexual organs and our brains, but we want to connect. And this is way more complicated because we have to mind the moods and the needs of our partners. We might have, issues with, you know, this is shameful, this is painful, and on the other hand, it's such a relief to talk about that. So to de-taboo things
Mm.
is really important. And for example, if we undergo transits
Yeah.
through the eighth house, they will bring the passion in our lives. So I get students and I get clients who say, well, I have nothing in the eighth house, so this shouldn't be an issue for me. And I said, yeah, but you will always meet people who will have placements in your eighth house. You
Mm-hmm.
will always have transits, solar returns, secondary progressions. And of course, you always have a ruler of the eighth house. And this is where the magic will happen.
Yeah.
And this is a chapter in my book. So it's always, okay, ruler of the eighth in the first, ruler of the first in the eighth, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a cookbook section at the end of my book. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Now let's talk about
Yeah.
placements in the eighth. Several people here have sun in the eighth.
Okay.
And I don't know if you wanna how you wanna, but let's talk about
Sure.
sun in the eighth. If you want to
Okay.
say anything about fire, earth, air, water. I mean, it's too much
Yeah.
to go through the 12 signs,
Sure.
but yeah.
Okay. So, just the other day, I chatted with a young lady over Instagram, and she was like, "Oh, I've watched your videos on YouTube, la 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 la, and also I have an interest on the eighth house." And then she offered to me like, okay, so I have sun and moon in the eighth house, so what is that supposed to be? And I think as an astrologer on social media, sometimes I come across YouTubers with how to do Instagram, how to do this, blah, 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 and they have like one line which says, so please be prepared that I cannot answer all your questions here. So book a reading, blah, 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 blah. And I think if you offer like, okay, so cookbook advice, so sun in the 8th house can be blah, blah, blah. Moon in the 8th house can be blah, blah, blah. You always have to be mindful of this is just scratching the surface. You have, because at the end of the day, you have to bear in mind, I work a lot with the aspects. So a sun in the 8th house with a trine to Jupiter is a different ball game than a square to Pluto, to be sure.
Yes.
But if we go by the roots of modern psychological astrology, the sun would more often than not have something to do with the father figure in our lives. So it might have to do with how we experience our own father in our childhood, or any sort of father figure. And on the other hand, the sun, of course, the symbol is like this circle with a dot in the middle, and this is like our identity, our conscious identity. And with the sun in the 8th house, sometimes it's like there was something mysterious about the father figure, something unfathomable. The father or a father figure came with a mystery, something shied away from getting approached. So that would translate into people with the sun in the 8th house might be super ambivalent about, there must be something about me which is a bit touchy, you know, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. And it's oftentimes that you have to be past your first Saturn return, to be brave enough to say, you know what, I have been through so and so many relationships, for example, or I have encountered so and so many crises, and only now I realize, wow, actually I'm quite a complicated person, by way of, as soon as I let people in, I can become obsessive, I can become jealous, I can become really, really passionate. And that's a mixed bag, because we will invite pleasure as well as pain in our lives, but there is no way back. As soon as we embrace any planet in the 8th house, and that holds in particular true to the luminaries and to any personal planet, this is a place of intensity. So we would not want to be any sort of lukewarm encounter. So it's a rather like on or off mode. So
no time for small talk.
exactly. And also with the sun, with the sun in the 8th house, which is a bit like Scorpio rising or Pluto in the 1st house, it's a bit like these people can come with a certain sort of like sexy mysteriousness about them. Sorry, I have to fix my iPhone again. Hold on.
Okay.
It's a very wobbly situation here. Hold on.
I see. Like it's like we're moving on.
I'm so sorry. I'm out of kilter here. So here I am again. So we might not really get a grasp of who these people with sun in the 8th are. They might be ambivalent and sending out mixed messages. So I'm inviting you, but then I'm pushing you away. So it's like, come here, fuck off. It's a double bind.
It is.
Right?
And I've heard some people with placements in the 8th house
Yeah.
or the sun,
Yeah.
like not understanding why they do what they do, because there's something very plutonic and or Martian and subconscious about. Sometimes when our subconscious actions come out, we do things that are self-defeating or self-undoing, or are different than what we intended. And there's this, because it's such a dark, murky place, maybe
It
don't really
is.
understand.
And I'm so glad for you to say murky or muddy, because the eighth house is a fixed water house, and it's sort of like it's not something that you can look at and can see down to the ground. It'll stay hidden, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like murky, muddy waters. It's like dirty stuff. So there might be like hidden beasts swimming at, beneath you. So, ooh, it can be spooky. But on the other hand, this is really sexy and inviting, and always like, so whenever parents say to their children, like, don't do that, of course they will do it. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Don't touch the hot stove.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's these people have a sort of on-off mode, and it's either I love you or I hate you, but I can't deal with lukewarm, la li la, nicey nice people, because
Mm.
they will get nervous. They will get, something is amiss here. And they would rather experience the pain of a intense relationship than not being committed to anybody in particular at all. And they would shy away maybe for a couple of years, excuse me, from relationships, because they have to heal.
Mm.
They have to shed skin so that the caterpillar can become the butterfly again, right?
Mm.
And also, I don't know about you, Celeste, but I find authentic people really endearing. I think
Yeah, people
it's,
willing to be their authentic self. Yes,
yeah,
me too. Yeah, I have Uranus at the IC, so
okay.
and my Mercury trines Pluto. So yeah, I'm fascinated by what lies beneath the surface.
So,
Yeah. Now,
so
what house system do you use? Do you use whole house or do you use?
Placidus,
Oh, me
Placidus.
too. Okay. Yeah, I
So
love.
here in Europe, in particular in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, we normally use Placidus, right?
Yeah.
So when I started off 30 years ago,
Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh, hopefully Martin will get the signal back. Are you hearing me? Is it me? Am I the problem? Ah, yeah. Oh, Palace. Type in the chat if you can still hear me, please. Okay. Oh, his signal got all messed up. Hopefully he'll be back. Uh, let's see. Okay, well we'll keep going. Oh, Kristen, yes. So he's describing your child's eighth house sun. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, he got a problem with his phone. Yeah, an eighth house stellium. Mm, yeah, yeah. I would say yeah that he's doing a great job describing the eighth house. I'll tell you again about his book. Hopefully he can come back. It's Pandora's Box, The Mysterious Eighth House. And Lynn Bell wrote the foreword to his book. So that's so cool. And like he said, in the back, he has all of these examples of uh, where your eighth house ruler is, which is really important to think about. So I'll talk about my chart. So I have Aquarius on the eighth house cusp. And so you can say either Saturn or Uranus rules my eighth house, depending. So I have Saturn in the 11th and Uranus in the 4th. I'll ask him about it if he comes up. Oh no, let's hope Martin can come back. Oh, oh, you have Uranus at 14 Scorpio in the eighth house, learning what that means. Oh, you're on your iPad. Okay, you should still be able to join, Martin. Yeah. Oh, my connection is wonky, you're saying. Huh. Are you saying my connection is wonky, Catherine? Oh, your phone got overheated. Okay. Martin, I'm going live. You should be able to go live on your iPad still. Okay. Yay! You're back. I was just like, this is so, I don't know if this is Saturn retrograde in Pisces or what. Oh, mine. Okay, my video's blurry. Okay, I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi. Okay. I turned off my Wi-Fi, so.
Okay. So this is me again. Hello.
Yeah, hi. I can see you. You're sideways, but that's okay. This is hysterical.
This is really hysterical. Also, I mean, the idea that my iPhone was just about to implode because it got overheated.
Like the eighth house. This is where we get overheated. This is where we, start to, rip each other's faces off. It feels very, the eighth house is very like,
so
who's
Celeste,
afraid of Virginia Woolf energy?
So do you have any idea what to do with my iPad so I'm not wonky here, but standing on the right side?
You can't put it.
It's ridiculous.
You can't twist it. You can't twist it 180 degrees.
Ah,
There you go.
there I
am. This is hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, it is. So I think we stopped at the sun,
Yes.
and now let's talk about the moon. Mm-hmm. So the moon is, of course, much more difficult because the moon itself often comes, more unconsciously. So the sun is our conscious identity, if you will, whereas the moon, of course, is where we want to feel at home, what our needs are, what our yearnings are. And in the eighth house, we might be confronted with a certain amount of shame, of guilt. So children might feel, it's not right who I am, what I want. And maybe the mother figure, so the moon has some issues about like maybe subconsciously surpassing guilt issues on the child. So people with moon in the eighth house can really easily become uncomfortable when they experience intimacy, and they will put you to the test time and time again. So you really have to be patient with people with moon in the eighth house because they really crave safety. They really crave a feeling of other significant people in my life are the real deal. They don't play games with me. You know
Show
what
me
I
you
mean?
really love me, even when I act
Yeah.
up. Is that what you're?
Yeah, love me or hate me or whatever you have to offer, let it be authentic. Because as soon as you play games with me, I'm out of here. I'm not interested in superficial relationship. So people with moon in the eighth house, more often than not, be it students or be it clients, might not even have an inkling about their feelings because it's all bottled up. So those people might come to you seeking advice when a significant transit is happening or when they have met someone with significant planets sitting at their moon, for example. And that's when the magic happens, you see. So whenever we meet people who with who would touch our planets in the eighth house, it's a huge opportunity to experience depth. That's a great word for talking the eighth house. Depth. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there is nothing at all wrong with staying on the surface. I mean, there are tons and tons and tons of people out there who would rather have many, many superficial relationships, and they're fine with that. But as soon as you have significant eighth house placement, that won't do the trick. It'll leave you hungry. It'll leave you thirsty. It'll leave you with, it's like being invited to a buffet and you're going there time and time again and coming back. Well, I'm still hungry. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And it could be one of the outer planet transits to your eighth house.
Yeah.
And that could change everything for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, take me for instance. I have a Venus in the eighth house, and although it's a friendly, uncomplicated, well, friendly maybe not, but a very direct Aries Venus, it's in the eighth house, and it's the ruler of my MC. So it's no surprise that I ended up doing stuff professionally dealing with depth. So I'm a researcher, I'm an astrologer, I'm a couple therapist. So I'm dealing with other people's shit, if you will.
And your own relationships have to have some. So people meet like your Venus and Aries, but then, how does it show up when the eighth house comes to visit?
Oh, it's really tricky because I have a lot of Taurus going on and I have a lot of Aries going on. And I always feel it's a bit of being like in a stop and go mode, because the Aries is like always way too quick, never having any second thought. And so just, it might not always be a good idea to approach people directly and telling them that I like them. No, it's not. Sometimes, no, it's more advisable to wait for them to take their turn. But then, I mean, Aries planets won't be gone off by that. So, yeah, you know, no time, I've lost interest in you, so, you know, whatever. Whereas, and I have Mars in Taurus, so there are mutual reception. So many times in my life, I have been too slowly. And many times in my life, I feel I have been too quick and impatient. So to find like a certain healthy balance of impatience and patience, wow, that's a biggie, I can tell you. And in the eighth house, I so often end up entangled in drama. So I'm always inviting other people's drama into my life. Ooh, wow.
But you love the drama.
Yeah. And
even if on the surface you think you don't.
It is. And at one point I decided, well, other people are approaching me with their shit anyway, so why not charge for it, right? Because, okay. So here is one question: what if it comes with a Scorpio ascendant? So that's like like
the person has Mars in the eighth house and a Scorpio rising.
Yeah. So that's like a double whammy. So with Scorpio rising, you will be a polarizing person. So it's a I like you or I hate you sort of mode. And for example, if you have Pisces planets or Virgo planets or Taurus planets going on, that's very uncomfortable. So I always think that there are two sorts of Plutonian or Scorpio or eighth house people. It's those who will embrace that being in the world of polarization or Those who feel like, but I want to be nicey nice, I want people to like me. Yeah, bad news, you can't do that if you have Scorpio rising, Pluto in the first house, if you have any Scorpio planets going on, or if you have like a 8th house, which, you know, comes with this certain like extreme energy of being in the world. Who don't want to go deep, do not like me. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think the older we get, the more we become aware of how draining small talk is, how draining it is if other people come with their own set of rules. No, you don't say that. No, you don't behave that way. And you say, well, okay, I get you, but maybe then we are not meant to spend time together. So count me out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the bravery. Okay, so Jacqueline has a question too. I have Uranus only at 14 Scorpio in the 8th house. Wants to know what Uranus in the 8th house
Yeah.
means.
You know, it's funny because I'm a huge fan of old classical Hollywood movies, and I posted the other day something about sexuality and taboos and control, and I came across these beautiful clippings of Greta Garbo, and Greta Garbo had Uranus in the 8th house, and she had this certain very special brand of sexuality. So people always were left at guessing whether she was bisexual, she was straight, whether she would enjoying sex in the first place. And she always had this sort of like alien quality to her. So really sexy, but not really with a clear sense of gender. So judging, so we're talking 1920s, 30s years, so like 100 years ago, and people were spellbound by her, but not in a sort of warm, inviting way, but always like, okay, this woman, I don't know, do you want to mess with her or not? But still, this certain alien quality, which I myself find very endearing. But then again, I have Moon in Aquarius, so right.
Ah.
Also, I have this friend who has Aquarius rising and a lot going on in the 8th house, and she's always making fun about sex. So she always says like that. So it's these really, really uncomfortable positions and people trying to find G spots and stuff. So she's clearly, because Uranus is a planet of seeking distance rather than symbiosis, and making fun of stuff can be a healthy way to distance yourself from issues like sexuality, you know, or intimacy. So make fun of it. It's a way of dealing with that, for example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point about how Uranus is about distancing or
Yeah. Yeah.
detachment or separation. Um,
Exactly.
and the 8th house is about merging. And so it's kind of like that
Yeah.
that's a double-edged sword, just comes to me, having Uranus in the 8th
Yeah.
house.
Also, Celeste, merging is a very good term for any sort of water planet, water house. So you're seeking intimacy, you're seeking symbiosis, and you want to get rid of boundaries. Boundaries are painful and not pleasurable. And in the 8th house, when you have difficult placements there, intimacy might be a double-edged sword. So on the one hand, you want to be really near and you want your boundaries to dissolve. On the other hand, you really fear like, oh my God, I will lose my own identity when I surrender to a relationship. And of course, in French, an orgasm is called la petite mort, the little death,
Yeah.
because the moment when we are losing control. And that's also, I mean, sex is about having control, So you have to obey my yearnings. I am having the upper hand. That's why people are addicted to watching porn, because you will know beforehand. So you're watching like one video again and again, and you would know who plays which part, you know how the porn video will end. So you are in control. Whereas if you are dealing with real people, that's not going to happen, right? So I'm living in Berlin, which is about like the kinkiest city in Germany, and sex is a big thing, drugs and sex and rock and roll and what have you. So everybody talks about sex and seduction and fetish and stuff, and I'm sick and tired of that, because more often than not, more
It's a
often
lot
than
of
not,
talk and no
yeah,
action,
yeah.
or
So
a lot of talk and choreographed action or pretend or role
yeah,
playing action.
and
Mm.
the amount of pleasure that you will derive of these encounters has its limits. After a certain
Mm.
point, it gets boring because it gets repetitive.
Mm.
So, and of course, these people show up on my couch as well as a couple therapist, surely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. What
So,
about Mercury there? Great for a detective.
um, Mercury, yeah, these are people who can become inquisitive and can become so these might be good reporters or investigative journalists or people who want to dig deep, and some other people might find that uncomfortable, yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
but um, again, it's a double-edged sword. So these people might look at you from a crooked 150-degree angle, and you would feel like, wait a minute, why is this people looking at me all the time? Just say it, sister,
Or
say it.
asking me these
Yeah,
uncomfortable questions.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Oh, a
So,
sun. Kels has a Sun Jupiter conjunction in the eighth house. Oh, that's an interesting.
oh,
Uh,
that's such an interesting combination. If we pair a supposedly joyous planet in a supposedly difficult house. So my guess is always like, since the eighth house is the house of crises and hidden talents, people with Jupiter in the eighth house will always find a way of looking at the bright side of a crisis and will emerge stronger, more resilient. So like, yeah, so the glass at the end of the day will always be half full and not half empty. So congrats.
yes. Oh, an arm photo. Love both of our presentations at NORWAC. Thank you, arm photo.
ah, that's lovely. I have Mars, Jupiter, and North Node in the eighth house. Okay, so here's the ticket about the North Node in the eighth house, which necessarily means that you have the South Node in the second house, which might, so I might surmise here that you might have encountered one or several incarnations where possessions were meaningful to you, and holding your ground and building fences, while the eighth house is all about letting go, which is painful. I mean, I'm a Taurus, I hate letting go,
Me
right? So you always
too.
have polarity. This is no, count me out. Because in the eighth house, we don't have guarantees that we will be the gainer of what's at the end of the journey, because the journey can be painful and shedding skin can be painful, and nobody will give us a guarantee like, wow, you will be the winner, you will be in a better place, which, if we are judging it from a psychoanalytical level, is the case, because you will always become a more fully realized person. But then again, you might lose other people who would find you like a pain in the ass, and you will say, you know what, I I have to surround myself with other people who are on the same journey, and you will lose other people who will say, let's um, let's remain nicey nice. And you will say, you know what, I can't do nicey nice anymore. It's draining. My batteries are running out empty, right? So yeah. So
Yeah.
Lilith, for example, in the 8th house, which is a bit like Lilith in Scorpio, this comes under the heading of there are huge taboos dealing with sexuality, with power struggles, which has to do with something against the patriarchal order. So it's always good to surround with strong women who will represent a sort of like a white witch energy for you. So women who have stood their ground. For example, I just the other day had a very, very interesting consultation from a woman in her 60s who has issues with her, let's put it that way, being a very sensuous, shapy sort of woman who exudes sexuality. And the older she gets, the more she finds that she will attract younger men. And she said, well, Martin, I'm having brilliant sex with them, but at the end of the day, I'm feeling ashamed. And whenever I talk with my female friends about that, they look at me like a bit like, so are they jealous? Are they judging me? And I told her, well, here's the
Probably.
thing. You,
Yes and yes and yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, so I was trying to encourage her, like, disregard what other women think of you. They are just jealous. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And she said, and she giggled away and she said, you really think so? I said, yes, I really think so. So go out in the world and enjoy yourself. And if you're
Fill
uncomfortable with
your
it,
cup.
yeah. So the goblet is overflowing with sensuality. Yeah. It's a full canopia. And
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and also, and I have Venus in the 8th house. So like, um, experiencing pleasure and having a guilty conscience. I had that even as a young child. And at one point, I came to the conclusion that if this is my way of having fun, always like sitting a little devil on my shoulder, wanting me to feel guilt, I said, okay, you can accompany me, but you won't be behind the steering wheel. You will be sitting, yeah?
In the back seat.
So, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, I wonder, was there a lot of, I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer it, of course, but
yeah,
was there something about guilt from your
yes,
childhood? Like if you have the cookie,
yeah,
yeah, it's bad because yeah, you're not supposed to eat all that sugar, but you love the cookie. So,
it is, it is. And in particular, I mean, me being a German, and German culture is all about feeling guilty, feeling ashamed, never unapologetically having fun. For example, if you ask other people, how are you? So the correct answer is like, I'm very, very busy. So never say, oh, I'm off work, I'm having the time of my life, because other people might be jealous at you, judging you.
ah,
And spending time in the US made all the difference, because I used to live in the UK and it's a similar culture. So the correct answer, how are you doing, would be like, not too well, not too bad. I mean, what kind of shitty answer is that?
I'm not too
I mean,
bad, but I'm bad.
yeah. So,
Oh, that's so funny. That moves back to where, like, I came on and said I'm great,
yeah.
and you're like, "You Americans, always doing so." Yeah,
So,
there's a comment here. Just said, "Sexuality is the brain, Scorpio. Intimacy is the body, Taurus."
yes,
Mm. Yeah.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, um, so in my book, I'm telling several stories about really heroic figures like RuPaul, like Jane Goodall, like Queen Victoria and her daughter, like Kaiser Wilhelm, like tons and tons of examples. And I really wanted to bite into that because all these people experienced drama at one point in their lives, and they became, or not, as it were, for more fully realized people. And these stories are way more interesting than just these lukewarm, nicey nice people. And I never trust those people anyway. So, you know, don't try to sell me shit. Because I would come and scratch the surface, or I would stay away from you because, you know, I'm very mindful and respectful of other people's boundaries. I'm really respectful. But and I had such fun. I met such lovely people, amongst others you, Celeste, such a lovely person. And I really thought like we had quality time. So we not only hung out together, but we shared quality moments. And it was really intense, deep.
Yeah, we had that deep discussion at the
Yeah,
OPA party.
yeah,
Yeah, it was really lovely. One of
yeah,
my favorite things about the.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, someone said they had big issues with sex. Yeah, that could.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, who doesn't have issues with sex? It's just one never talks about that because it's a taboo. So sex is in the same house as taboo and boundaries are. So of course it's, you know, circling about the block all the time.
Yeah.
And some clients are in their early 20s, some are over 80,
Yeah.
and some things never change. And we always think, okay, once we are 30, once we are 40, but I always say, no, you will keep your issues, and best to embrace them and not to be ashamed of them. And you will come across other people, and then you will realize, oh, I am not the odd one out. There are peeps out there who are just like me. And this is so, it's such a relief, it's such comfort to not being judged, to not feeling the odd one out, because, oh, these people are similar. So I used to do psychodrama for 10 years, and I was hosting groups, and I always found that the group experience of sharing pain it does make a huge difference, getting rid of shame and guilt.
Yeah. When you understand other people are going through
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
things. Yeah.
sure.
Oh, Julia said she just finished your book and loved
Oh,
it.
ah,
Again, Pandora's Box, The
okay.
Mysterious Eighth House. Yes.
Yeah,
And I put a link in the show notes about
yeah.
if people want to grab the book. Yes, it's so good. And yeah, so we're almost at the top of the hour. This has been a fantastic discussion. People have loved it. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Tell people how they can find you.
Well, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, obviously. So by now, I've more been a YouTube sort of person, and there are tons and tons of German videos, but also you will find quite a lot of English videos on my YouTube channel. And I'm just starting out on Instagram, and that's why I'm so grateful to lovely people like Celeste, who has really put tons and tons of work on Instagram, and it's paying out. And it's a lesson to be learned for me, to be, because I always thought like Instagram is a third house channel. Wouldn't you agree, Celeste? So you really be a busy little bee connecting with all the peeps out there. And you, of course, you have to share content, bits and bobs, and you have to be entertaining, but also insightful, right? And
I kind
so
of look at it as 11th house too, like
also, yes,
building
yeah,
community.
yeah. Which again is another air house. So Instagram is an airy kind of taste, wouldn't you
Yes.
agree? So yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
like a seventh house, like, oh, okay, who are you? Who am I? Let's connect, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's great, really.
So yeah, people, make sure you follow Martin. You can just
Yeah.
click the carrot and follow him. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Well, it's my full
Okay.
name, Martin dot Sebastian dot Moritz, Moritz.
Okay.
So in German, Martin Sebastian Moritz,
Okay. And
right?
people can find your website too, probably by
Yeah,
putting your name
yeah,
in.
sure. And also, I have a link tree on my Insta account, so it'll all be connected there, and my website also.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It was so good to
Yeah,
see you again, and what a great discussion.
yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Thank you.
I'm glad
Thank
you
you
were
so
able.
much for
We
having
had
me.
some fun with the
Yeah.
with
And you know
the
what, Celeste, um, I consider myself, and I don't want to boast, but I've really am an expert on many issues, like for example, Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, Saturn, Jupiter, what have you. So I always think it's fun to chat with other astrologers about certain placements in the chart. So you can almost make a podcast out of any, no? Absolutely loved your posting about Joe Biden and Donald Trump,
oh,
because I've been on the internet the whole day and just and digesting the car crash.
it
Wow.
was a disaster.
Yeah.
Debate. I wrote the astrology how I saw it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Taking it
So
aside,
so
yeah, just the
um,
astrology of how I saw it. Yeah. So
so
thank you.
um,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
and
It's
and the next thing, Celeste, would be like, will Joe Biden surrender? Will Jill Biden tell her husband, listen, darling, you've lost it. So it's time to retire. And then the Democratic Party really has to look for brilliant younger people who will beat fucking Donald Trump.
it will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah,
Will people, because people are freaking out today,
yeah,
they are freaking out in the Democratic
yeah,
Party. Will we be like this Capricornian, like hierarchical thing where they're just like, no, we just all have to fall in line. It doesn't matter how bad he did. We'll just make all these excuses and da 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 da. Or with Pluto and Aquarius, we've got to consider the group and what is
yeah,
important for,
yes,
our values and democracy and all of this kind of stuff. And even though it's this Mars Uranus coming up with this reversal potentially
yeah.
about who's going to be, we'll see.
So,
History
so,
would suggest that they're all going to yeah,
so
yeah, they're all going to
I
be.
think there is this woman from, I don't know, is it Missouri or Wisconsin, called Gretchen something or
Gretchen
other?
Whitmer, yes,
Yeah,
I love her.
yeah.
Yeah, she's
And also like the Californian governor, what's his name?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. So these names I've been hearing again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't they go and share a ticket? So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what
Expect
happens.
the unexpected. It was a car crash.
Yeah.
It was a
Painful.
car crash. Very
Painful to
painful
watch.
as a US citizen and even as a
Yeah.
citizen of the world.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very
Exactly.
painful. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And in Europe at the moment, we are surrounded by car crash governments all over. Like in France, we might be heading for a Marine Le Pen
Mm-hmm.
extreme right government, and of course it's our neighbor in Europe. So it's just horrible. It's just horrible. All these anti-democratic tendencies is horrible.
Well, this is
If I
Pluto and
do,
Aquarius.
yeah,
We're up against a choice. Is it going to
yeah,
be power to the people or power over the people? Like the US,
exactly,
they're trying to turn us into a theocracy in
exactly.
certain places.
It's
Like
absolutely
they're teaching
terrible.
the Bible in elementary school, and I think it was some state just passed some law that you have to teach the
Yeah,
Bible in school. It's we are in really, 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 we're at a turning point of times. And
yeah,
so it was so fascinating. I was watching some analysis and they were saying about how people want to go back to 2019 to pre-pandemic times and da da
yeah.
da da da. We are never going
No,
back. It's like that's not the direction. The
no,
direction is forward. You cannot turn the dial back to that. Yeah.
exactly,
Hmm. Oh,
exactly.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So,
Okay.
wow. Oh, in Brazil as well, Claudio was
Yeah,
saying. Ah.
that's true.
Hmm. Yeah, I
True.
don't know much about Brazil politics, but oh yeah, and there was just like an attempted coup in, was it Bolivia?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Bolivia and what's going on in Kenya with
yeah.
yeah, with the protests that turned into riots.
Horrible.
It's we are in a really big stage of like a lot of upheaval and change, and yeah,
True.
but we've got to stay, we can't put our heads in the sand. We've got to
No.
decide what are
Uh,
our personal values and act accordingly with our vote or our actions and
yeah.
whatnot. Hmm.
So, um, you are in California, aren't
Yes,
you, Celeste?
yes.
Where? Where
Near
exactly?
San Francisco in Oakland.
Oh, wow. I've never been to San
Well,
Francisco.
you have to
I've
come
always wanted
visit.
to go. I will next year. I mean, absolutely, because my US visit was 2 weeks, and then I had a jet lag for 9 days.
Uh,
So I said, that doesn't tally because so next year I will come for 3 weeks, and that will be a better ratio, you see. And I will
I
do
think
some
so.
traveling because you have to travel because it's such an amazing country.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be in England for the Astrological Association conference. Are you going?
No, not this year.
Okay.
So I'm just doing one conference per
Okay.
year, and since I've been at NORWAC this year, I mm, I took a rain check on the UK. But you will have fun, I'm sure of it. It's
Yes.
lovely
Yeah.
people. So the UK astrological community is really nice. It's really lovely people
Yeah.
there,
I love
and some
Wendy Stacy. Yeah.
really quirky characters. So you will have a blast. Absolutely.
Oh, good. 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 Yeah. If anybody watching is come to the conference, come to my workshop and my talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I better run. Oh, so the conference is the Astrological Association conference in the UK. You can go to the link in my bio, Pale Sala, and you can see a link to it to see, and you can join in person. It's in Leicester. I hope I said that
You
right, the UK,
did?
or you can do it online. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Martin. What I'll do is I'll make you a
Yeah,
collaborator. And if you want, you can add it to your own wall, this
I will,
conversation.
of course.
Okay. Take good care. Bye.
Bye.